Hello everybody, thank you for stopping by to watch my video. My name is Oksana. Today I am drawing a portrait of this wonderful lady. She lives in Switzerland and she gave me permission to use her portrait in this video. I assume that most people who watch this type of videos somehow involved with art. Maybe you're painting watercolors, maybe you're drawing portraits, but in any case, I am not going to talk today about how to draw the portrait and what colors I use and what brand I use. This video just general video about painting and about art. And I will share with you some of my thoughts and some of my philosophy regarding this subject. Where I came from, which is basically a Russian way of doing art. They say that artists have to show the truthfulness of life. And it is not about painting realism. They literally mean truthfulness of life. They mean not to show things more beautiful than they are. And my personal philosophy about art is opposite of that. I truly believe that artists of course can paint and draw whatever they want. And at the same time, I want my paintings to communicate beauty of the world and beauty of life and positive feelings. And I want people who see my art feel good at the moment they see it and feel good after when they remember it. I just started this watercolor and I already came across some issues. I used a very soft pencil. It was, I think, 8B. And now when I use a first layer of watercolor, the pencil washed off. And I literally do not see the face at all, which means I have to dry this layer and redraw it again. And at first I wanted to trim this video a little bit and kind of skip this moment. But then I thought maybe it is interesting. It's actually pretty cool to draw on top of watercolor layer. And I still have a little bit of lines. Right now you can see the eyes, but it's because I started to draw them before I made decision to turn on the camera. And as I draw in this portrait for the second time, I can definitely see that it's easier. And I already see that second time the portrait comes out looking a little bit better. Which brings a good argument about sketches. I have a bad habit not to do any sketches. I usually start my paintings right away. I see a subject, I wanna paint it, and I start to do that. But this experience to redrawing this face again definitely tells me that sketches are a necessary part of art. First of all, the eyes will become more accommodated to the subject. Second, the hand will kind of warm up. And then we start to see simple shapes a little bit better and it will be easier to draw them. And then the brain starts to think about shades and about color, about cold and about warm. As I draw this, I do not think about subject at all. I do not think that this is a cat and I don't think that there is a hand. I draw shapes as I see them being described by the light and shadow. And I repeat those shapes with a pencil. And in the end, it ends up looking as a person, or as a hand, or as a cat. I have decided to speed up this part of video. And at the same time, I would like to continue my conversation about meaning of art and why we create art, why do we paint. And I would like to continue this conversation with a story. I used to take oil painting classes with the teacher named Lee Hartman. And I'm saying her name because she was one of the best teachers I ever came across. She was straightforward with her students, and unfortunately some students would take it very sensitively and would even leave class crying and wouldn't come back. And those students who stayed and who took her advice and who made the changes that the teacher was asking to make actually became a really good students. But my story is not about them. My story is about this teacher and about art. One day during her class, she said that she was moving and she asked people to help, anybody who could come and just help her to move her stuff. I was one of those people who arrived to help, and there were other maybe 20 people, maybe even more. Basically every single student of hers who could did come to help her. Surprisingly, she lived in a countryside outside of the city. She rented a small farmhouse and a shed next to that house. She was moving to one-bedroom apartment in a senior facility. So she asked first to take stuff from the shed and to see how all that could fit in her new apartment. And when we opened the shed, all the people who were there just stood for like few minutes and nobody could move. That shed was full of paintings, literally from the floor to the ceiling. I am sorry for this digression, but I would like to apologize for barking dogs. It is my neighbor dogs and they bark all the time and there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, back to the story. So slowly, one by one, we started take out canvases. Most of them were finished paintings. Some of them were started and not finished. Unfortunately, half of those paintings already were rotten. Many paintings had mold on them. Some of them had rats' bites, literally holes through, and you could see that it was a rat bitten hole. It was very difficult to see, very emotional experience. And when that 75 years old art teacher saw her paintings in such a bad shape, she started to cry. She did not want to let them go, but she knew she could not save them either. And when we sorted those paintings and choose those that she would keep and choose those that have to go, we went to her house, and expectation was that there was some furniture and that we would move the furniture. Somebody even hired a U-Haul truck to help her. But actually there were no furniture. Her living room had only art materials and again canvases from the floor to the ceiling. And then when I had an opportunity to talk to her, of course I asked her about it. Why she had so many of her paintings? Haven't she ever tried to sell them or do something with them? And she said that she sold a lot, but most of her paintings nobody wanted. No gallery would take it. She tried to go to some fairs and she would sell one or two, but most paintings would stay with her. And in the end, that's what happened. She ended up with few hundred paintings following her everywhere she goes. So we helped her to move to her new apartment, which was smaller than her house, and there was no shed. And all that apartment, again from floor to ceiling, was filled with her paintings. And I'm sorry that this story sounds so sad, and it's not the end yet, but this story really raised a question in my mind. Why do people paint? 2 months later, that teacher lost her consciousness right on the middle of the class. She literally fell on the floor and would not respond. It was very scary. Of course, somebody called an ambulance right away. An ambulance took her, and the next day I found out that she passed away. And one of the questions that came to mind right away, what would happen to her paintings? She had 3 children, but I've been told that nobody knew how to contact them. There was no will, there was no knowledge of anybody who could claim her property. As a result, very few paintings survived. The rest were just thrown away. And now my question again, why do we paint? Why do we keep our paintings? Why we just don't give it away if nobody wants to buy it? Those type of questions could be very easy for some people and very difficult for other people, but the truth is that there is no right answer. So all that had happened about 10 years ago, and what had happened to me, I stopped painting with oils, and after death of my oil painting teacher, I was not able to come back to oils ever again. I started to paint with watercolor. Surprisingly, transition was very easy. Everybody who I knew told me that watercolor much more difficult than oil. Somehow I don't think so. I actually enjoy watercolor more than I enjoyed oil. And I definitely feel good that I'm not cluttering my canvases, and knowing that in 30 years or so I will not have few hundred canvases been cluttered somewhere in a shed. The entire painting today took about 1 hour, maybe a little bit longer, so in some places I speeded up a lot, in some places it is just the way it is. And few minutes ago I cut out a good chunk just to jump in front. I don't want you guys to feel bored. And again, I made an assumption that people who watch this video are people who paint, and step-by-step process is not as important. And the entire reason for this painting is the mood. It is one of the reasons why I even chose this photo, because when I looked at this photo, I saw this affectionate love of this person towards a cat, and maybe even toward the photographer. And the entire presentation of this photograph makes you feel so good that I had the feeling that I wanted to paint it, that I just had to paint it. I even didn't care about likeness. I was ready even to paint some kind of abstract painting that would show that type of feelings. But abstract is actually very difficult. It's much more easier to look at the photograph and paint something that look alike. My painting is coming to the end. The question always in the end is how many details I would like to have. I like this phrase, devil lives in details. And it is so much true about watercolor. It is so important to stop on time, literally sit on your hands. Most watercolor artists I know, and I'm talking about people who I know personally, they do a great job in the first couple layers and then in the middle stage. But then when it comes to details, this is when painting, I believe, becomes, let's say, different. Not as interesting as it used to be before. So this is always important and interesting question. What level of details is enough? On this note, I will start wrapping up my conversation and my video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you watched it to the end. I hope my conversation was interesting, and if anybody wants to share your experience, your opinion, your answer to my questions, please feel free to do so in the comments. And for now, that is it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I want to invite you to browse through my channel to watch some of my other videos, and come back soon for my next video just like this one. I hope you had fun and have a good day.